Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I know we've got well over 600 people registered for this event and potentially up to 10,000 people viewing it over the lifetime of the video. So I really wanted to share with you, we've got a different approach today. We do monthly lives, we share them and stream them across YouTube, across Facebook and on LinkedIn here. Today we're going to take a roundtable approach, and typically a roundtable is something that's exclusive and confidential, where people can feel happy and open to be really genuine and authentic without any audience watching. But we've brought that here today to this global audience because actually there's so much value in being able to be open and honest, to be unscripted, and to have a really good conversation that other people can actually be part of and learn from and support us with. So we're going to be talking about leadership challenges in 2025 today, and I am very excited to introduce you to the fantastic lady and women leaders that I have here today. These ladies are my good friends. They also happen to be leaders of fantastic organisations. So I have Carleen, I have Donna, I have Ekaterina, and I have Nick. And we're just going to give you an opportunity to listen into some of the challenges that we're facing all the time as leaders of organisations in this uncertain world that is full of unstoppable and unsolvable issues. We are in a place where there's big change going on, as well as small changes in work and outside of work for everybody. And as leaders, you're working with and through other people all the time. And actually, it's really, really hard in an environment that's so changing every single day and every moment of every day. So I really just wanted to open up the conversation of like, what's most important to you as a leader in your organisation with your team? Nick, what do you think? Tell me where your head's at on that.
I think at the moment there's so much change going on that the trust of the team is what I really need. It's what I need to build on. It means that the team, if they have trust in me, we will work together and we will have the same goals. We will have a clear way of getting there. And I think, you know, coming into work every day and being yourself is the most important thing. And I think for them being able to see us as our true selves, it does build a lot of trust, and I think the team then respect you a lot more and can work a lot better alongside you.
You're so right. I think I was talking about this with Donna earlier, because actually it's really, really hard to be yourself in an environment where a lot of conversations are quite politically charged at the moment in terms of where you have your integrity as a leader, don't you? Yeah. I know you were mentioning that to me earlier.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to, as Nick was saying, like you need a team that really trusts you, and you need to trust them because the world changes like on a day-to-day basis. I described it yesterday as like being on a roller coaster. You have great news and really bad news coming at you constantly, and the team that you're working with need to really feel like you know what you're doing, but also that they know what they're doing. And I think it's really hard at the moment working with partners and companies, not knowing which ones are, you know, controversial companies change almost daily at the moment, and companies can be bad companies because they've suddenly become controversial and got involved in politics, and whether you're working with them, the team need to trust that you can make good decisions about whether you should be working with them or not.
Well, decisions are hard enough at the moment to make anyway with the amount of uncertainty. And actually I had two people in 1 week. When I hear the same question from different people, I always think that's a sign there's something like important in that topic.
A trend.
Yes, a trend. And I had two people, I had someone in my team and a client both asked me what I stood for in the same week. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, isn't it? People care so much about your integrity as a leader and you know, what you stand for. And actually, you know, I had to stop and think, because you don't want to just quickly say something off the top of your head, because actually, things change all the time. My motivation changes. I don't know, what do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we as leaders, we actually need to normalize the discomfort of uncertainty and see change as an opportunity rather than a threat. And my leadership style has always been leading by example. So you can't just tell someone, come on, just embrace it. It's not that simple. Like, you need to show them how you are doing this yourself, and then your team members will be looking up to you and following your lead. But at the same time, I think we as leaders, we should just forget about trying to make perfect decisions. We just need to make the best decisions that we can make at this particular moment, because of course hindsight is a beautiful sight. You look back now you have the knowledge, you have the experience, and you can think 2 weeks ago I could have done it better. No, you couldn't. You did the best that you could with the knowledge you had, and you just need to own it. And your team needs to see it, that I made this decision, it was the best decision I could make, I own it. And we're not looking back.
That's so hard. I know leaders are really struggling with that, especially when there's a big audience, right? Tens of thousands of people in an organisation, and you're doing maybe an all-hands communication where you're talking to lots of different people across the world, different teams. The fear of getting it wrong is so hard to almost like admit, like, I've made that decision. How do you do it, Carleen?
Well, I think what's really important is that for a lot of organisations actually is to make sure that you have a clear vision and a clear purpose that's shared, because at the end of the day, the majority, if not hopefully all of your employees really want to serve you and make you a success and to really support that. But how can they do that without really being aligned to a single star? In my business, I sort of look to balance developing talent, creating and developing talent with profitability, because there is no business without the profitability. So it's thinking about how can we grow and evolve with that in mind, and let that be a sort of a steer for the decisions that we make.
And that's super important now, isn't it? This kind of economic stance on things. It's always been a bit shunned to be talking about profit in an organisation when people are really, obviously, purpose and meaning matters so much to people, and how much they trust you as a leader with that integrity around living and breathing what you say you want your company to do. And yet, in these uncertain times, actually, our economy really matters and our profitability really matters. So it's almost, it feels like there's a shifting balance for leaders in terms of having to really share a bit more about the economic state of the organisation and the importance of commerciality, even in charity organisations, right, Donna?
Absolutely. I mean, we have to make a profit. We have to raise more money than we spend to raise that money. That's our profit. We put our profit into supporting our beneficiaries in the same way that other companies put it into the organisation or into the society in money. So yeah, we have to balance that happy, healthy employees and making a profit.
And do you think people want to hear it? Do you think people in organisations want to hear about the commerciality of the business, or do you think?
I think so,
Yeah?
no, absolutely. But also I think it's important to point out as well that we are having to do more with less. The resources we have are just, dwindling away. I think since the pandemic as well, I think there's a fear of, the people's roles have changed. AI's come in, that's a whole other conversation. But it's about not being scared of using things that can actually, help us prioritise our day. I think I was reading about the 2080, where only actually 20% of what you're doing during the day will bring in 80% of your goal at the end. And it's working out actually what is the most important thing to be doing during your day, but also having the empathy with your team and checking in with your team all the time that they're okay, but having the goal of obviously the financials at the end. So it's a really difficult thing to juggle.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think there's the piece around, like, people want stability, don't they? In an uncertain world, everyone's looking for that certainty, the stability, and actually it matters, the stability of the organisation. And so people want to hear kind of how is the organisation doing a lot more, and how much can I contribute to that, because that's going to give us more certainty, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that we should all focus on adaptability and developing those skills of adaptability, rather than focusing on building those beautiful rigid plans that go out of the window when some new things are being enforced on us from nowhere. I think adaptability is the key.
Yeah. So tell me about adaptability then. So when have you had to be really adaptable, like in crisis situation? Because it feels like, I battle a lot sometimes with things that are going on in the week and having to solve problems. And not necessarily crisis, but like things come up and they are urgent and important, and you have to, let everything else go. What have you got? Where have you demonstrated adaptability? Have you got any examples of things that you've done that you had to really be flex?
I think some people are sort of made this way, like because of my background, it was a dysfunctional upbringing, and then you sort of learn to live in uncertainty and in constant change. So I think I developed the skill of just being thinking really fast on my feet and like just rolling with this, really. And it helped me when I started the business, because I was an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't plan to build a business. I was illegally dismissed. And then I thought, right, I'll start my own agency. And what do I know best? I know marketing. And then I had to constantly adapt my business based on what clients and what opportunities were coming my way. But my business has had two big transformations. So first we were the content marketing agency, and then we pivoted towards the video production agency where the market was going. And then in 2022, when all the marketing budgets got shrinked, we were like, all right, we're a video production agency, we're the first that are going to get cut. And this is where we pivoted towards event production, because events still are taking place and the events have the dates. And if we need to go live at 3 p.m., we're going to go live. We're going to go live at 3 p.m. And I think it's just how I've been rigged.
That's interesting.
That helped me with something that probably in the past felt like it was a curse.
Yeah.
Now it's a blessing. So I don't know any other way.
I love that, because
And-
I think you're right. Like, our strengths come from learning to cope with challenges, don't they? I can resonate a lot with you. I had to be really adaptable from a very young age, because I was quite independent and autonomous from 8. But I'm interested to know as well, Carleen, obviously you've had your own business for some time. Is adaptability a theme, something that you've had to really...
I think it's
kind of-
something that my team have to have if they work with me, actually. Because I'm dyslexic, and so I'm probably one of the most creative people that ever existed. So I'm always innovating, and I need people to probably ground me as much as anything. But yeah, I think I think that every business needs to constantly be on an evolution of what they represent, what they're for, what their products are, because the markets are always evolving. And if anyone ever thinks that we're going through change to get to a plateau, they need to think again, because actually what's really important is that you just think of the business as a constant evolution, and the skills that you need actually are adaptability as an employee and as a business owner, to be looking at where is the opportunity, what are those trends, and where do we need to get to, because whatever the destination might appear today, it no doubt will change. Look at, you talked about AI, so we have to constantly evolve and go with the flow.
It's interesting, isn't it? So Ariel in my team's been looking at the change curve, which is quite a traditional way of kind of looking at people's response to challenge and change. And she said, actually, a lot of the psychological flexibility we need now is being able to jump straight to acceptance. And that actually really aligns with some of the psych flex stuff that we're doing. And that really resonated with me. It was like, yes, you just have to be much more ready to accept whatever's in front of you, don't you? In terms of business challenges or even opportunities, is just accept that this is where we are right now, and it might not be what I planned for. I think sometimes you put so much time into a plan. I think that's what you're saying, is that you can waste that.
And then when you have expectations, you expect that things will go flawlessly, and then they don't. And not only you need to pivot your path, you also need to sort of emotionally process those unmet expectations. But if you release the expectation and you just accept, we live in uncertainty, just embrace it. At least you save yourself on wasting your energy and your time and your feelings on just feeling sorry for all the missed expectations, those that have been unmet.
And the investment of time in that, I think that's probably the hardest thing when you haven't got much time. As a parent, and as obviously I have elderly parents as well, and lots of animals, my choice, but I often feel like I have no time, and I do have time, because when I look at my usage of my screen time, I'm reminded of how much time I must have. But it is, I think sometimes the difficulty with that, of kind of accepting change for me, certainly comes from like, oh, but I put so much time into that thing and now I've just got to move on quicker. But recognising that maybe I learned through that process that it's not all wasted time. It's time to kind of grow and innovate. Do you have that?
Well, I think completely, and I think the fact that we have to be accepting that everything we do isn't always going to be successful, and actually holding your hand up and saying, okay, that wasn't the right thing to have done, or actually no, next time I should maybe try and do it differently because of this. And I think there's just so much pressure on you as a leader while you're trying to juggle 20 things at home, like you're saying, and then 20 things in the office, and by the time you get into work, you're already, you've already had a day. So it's just accepting, you are as you are, and that's a great thing to be, but to actually have that confidence in yourself every day can be quite difficult. And I think, again, it comes back to having a team in place who are there to support you, whether that's your team at work, whether that's, friends, colleagues, family, however that is. I think you've got to always remember you can't do it on your own.
No.
Well, you can, but the consequences to that are huge. And, I don't think it's always possible to do it on your own. In fact, I'm very much, I want to involve my team, and I want us all to be on a journey together. And again, whether that's at home and we're all doing something together, or whether that's at work or, out with friends, I think it's really important to have that support network with you.
And that's the human bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
That interconnectedness, that interdependence that we all need and have. And I think some people really get that from work, but lots of people get it from other places and other ways, more so now I think than ever before. Like I can be part of any kind of community online now, probably if I went and searched for one, and I never used to have that when I grew up. Obviously I didn't have that. The web wasn't there.
But it's sharing experiences, isn't it? Yeah. And then recognising that you've had exactly the same, and just sharing people's stories. And I think that really does help everybody, and just talking a lot more outside of work.
We don't do enough of it though, do we? I get so much from being in the room with you.
Yeah, exactly. These kinds of groups where you get to talk about stuff and say, oh God, I've been dealing with this, or have you ever experienced that? Or my God, it's really tough. I had to do this at 10% yesterday. I wish I could have done it at 100%, but the world got in the way and I couldn't. Those kinds of forums are so helpful to to not feel like you're alone, that you're not the only person dealing with the chaos that is the world at the moment. But also then just to learn from each other, and someone, Nick will say, oh yeah, I've done that, I've fixed that, and it's really helpful to absorb all of that. That really helps in that kind of change environment. And change is an evolution and a revolution, and sometimes you feel like you're just constantly in the revolution, and then it calms down and people hope that that's the plateau, but actually that's the evolution. That's the slow and steady is still changing. So
one of the things I think that's part of that evolution is that actually it's becoming, you might call it trendy, but fashionable, but important that leaders are more authentic, that they present themselves with all their flaws, and that the team don't always assume that they know the answers to everything, and that is a team thing. And I think that's a great thing for us all to be embracing and encouraging our team to be bringing their authentic self to work, because there's often a conversation around sort of work-life balance, but there probably is no real thing. It's about bringing their whole self, and if people are moving house or going through things that are happening at home, they'll bring that to work. And isn't it a great thing to when you're checking in with your team to know all of that, to be able to be your authentic self?
Well, all of it, okay. I'm not sure. So sometimes,
yes,
sometimes I don't think you need to know all of it. I think I like to know, I guess, and we talk to leaders about this in terms of how to help them be authentic if they're not sure what to bring into that environment. And I've talked about it a lot in terms of bringing in your purpose, bringing in your strengths, bringing in the skills and the opportunity and what you contribute to the team. That clarity can really help people. Then they get to know who you are, and that trust is really important, isn't it? Because you get to build trust knowing what type of leader's response you're going to get if you come to them with a mistake or a problem. They're going to get some consistency then in character. But I've got to be honest, it's taken me a really long time to feel as authentic as I am now in my leadership role. I feel like I've had to play the game over many years, particularly with how I dress. So when I was early in my career, I was all in black suits, black trouser suits. There wasn't a skirt in sight. I was very much trying to be something. Goodness knows what it was, but I felt like that's what I had to be.
It's a uniform.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And now, I feel much more confident wearing what I want to wear. But then I look around at some of my my peers and my counterparts as women, and it seems like women often hold back until later in their careers to wear big earrings or a big necklace or some funky shoes or something that they would have loved to wear, but they'd hold back doing that. And I just wish people had the chance to do that at a younger point in their career and felt really confident that they could express themselves from the word go. I don't know if you see that or if that's a change in society. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think as younger, as like a mask as well. It's like you put on your big girl suit and you go to work and you dress the part that you're hoping you'll get to, even feeling like you're going to get there at some point, even if you are actually doing it. It takes a little while to catch up. I mean, certainly, like my purple hair has.
I love your purple hair.
Like, it took me a long time to get to the point where I was like, do you know what, I can be professional and have purple hair.
Yeah.
Those two things are not mutually
You can be
exclusive.
you with your purple
yeah,
hair.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think that bringing your whole self to work stuff, again, comes back to what Nick was saying about trust, right? It's about trusting that when you share something with the team, that they're like, okay, that is affecting your ability to do your work, and vice versa, that they're not bringing stuff that doesn't really affect work. And if you've got the trust with your team, that actually when they say, this week I'm not going to be 100% on it because I've got X, Y, and Z going on, but I'll be back next week, or I'll be back to 100% at some point. That's when the trust is really important, to be like, okay, that's fine, you've got stuff going on, you're moving house, you're going through a divorce, you've got family stuff going on. That's when it's really important to have the trust to say, do you know what, I'm only going to be 80% this week.
You need to be interested in your team as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Show them that you're interested and you care about them.
Yeah.
That if you want longevity from a team, you've got to put in as much as you can. And I think investing in what's going on in their world is really important.
And that can be really hard as well, can't it? Because I think sometimes as a leader, I don't want to be too nosy.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to pry.
Yeah.
And I also know that I think from our research that pretty much everyone's got something going on.
Yep.
So it's like you're always carrying at least one person in your team. I've often said that, but I think it's way more than just one. And actually having to make decisions and continually execute and deliver when you've got difficult kind of level of resourcing. And I don't think that's certainly not unique to my small world. Everyone I speak to has got issues with resourcing. Lots of right sizing happening in organisations last year where people were, sometimes layers were taken out of businesses. We're seeing some big changes still to happen in organisations everywhere that people are talking about in the media. And that has an impact, doesn't it? When you lose a function or you lose a layer, the people around them try to pick up everything because that's the work that needs to get done. And how do you make the decision, or how do you as a leader support people to make the decision of what to do and what not to do when it all seems important, and not allow your team to burn out and feel like they're just exhausted all the time, and see things positively as innovation. It's like, when someone's tired, they don't want to hear it, do they? So how do you frame it as, how would you tackle that? You've got I know you've got a really innovative kind of streak.
I would say that whenever we have too much on our plates, we always go back to the whiteboard where you split the board into 4 sections, and you put there what's urgent, what's important, what's non-important, what's not urgent. And actually when you look at it and then put a deadline next to it, suddenly, and you understand what value this particular task will bring, you understand there's loads of things that you just have on your to-do list just for the fun of it, or like because someone told you that you should have it. I think, just sometimes it's just looking back at the whiteboard and just, having maybe a bigger pictures, but because when you're right in the middle of it, everything might seem important, but we as business leaders, we need to be able not only to work in business but to be able to work on the business. I would definitely recommend to anyone out there 10KSB program by Goldman Sachs, because that's what exactly they do to us. They provide us with a mini MBA, and they pull you out of the business for 6 months, and they help you build your business growth plan. And this is for the first time for me in like 6 years of running my business. I was able to just have like a bird view of what my business was doing, and it enabled me to triple revenue and profit in the first year. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
If only I could always be able to work on my business, not in my business, which is not a reality. But I think sometimes just tracking your time, what actually you're doing during your day, and have a fair, honest conversation with yourself. What did I spend 8 hours in the office on?
I'm so glad that you authentically shared that, and thank you, because I think it's really important to come back down to some of the basics sometimes, because that urgent, important grid, it's a great framework. It's good. It's tried and tested. Loads of people use it. And I talk to people about using it. When did I last do that? So checking in with myself, like I'm sitting there going, yeah, gosh, I should have done that. Because I haven't. And sometimes it's just that you getting yourself back to those basics, exactly that, tracking your time. Where am I actually spending time? You can get kind of, you can get in the flow. I can certainly, if I'm writing, I can get in the flow and go off in one direction quite far. And sometimes you need to get back in, don't you? I know, Carleen, you've been in and out of the business, focusing on the business. And
I think what I'm trying to do is train my team to all work on the business as well.
Brilliant.
And so the way I'm doing that is I say to that when somebody comes into the business, they very often might see themselves as like a driver would. I'm going from A to B, doing a task. So the next level would be they don't just see themselves as a driver, they see themselves as looking at the car, how can I make it more comfortable for everybody, how can I optimize it, optimize the model of the processes, the systems and the way they're working. And then the last elevation of that in terms of maturity of how they're working on the business is to get out of the car and see themselves, yes, as a driver and as optimizing the car, but see themselves with a map. And the compass is where we're heading as a business, but the map is what they define as the way to get there. And so they're empowering them to sort of not just be in their own shoes of I'm doing a task, but what's the best way to get there to achieve what we're trying to achieve as a business, because you can often get lost in the detail day to day. So my mission is to train everyone to get to that level of vision, so it's not just all
that's
me.
quite liberating for a leader, isn't it? To be able to know that other people are thinking that way, and sometimes you feel like it's your duty to kind of do that thinking for everybody, but exactly that's so empowering for your team to bring everyone in to do that. I'm interested to know kind of what are the barriers? So these are the great ways of things that we can do to kind of help our businesses be more innovative, use some of those techniques, bring people in, build that trust. But what are the things that sometimes don't work, and how do we cope with those and overcome them? Because they come at you when you're least looking for them and when you're least ready. What are the challenges that you face, and how do you kind of overcome those? I feel like I love these connection points. I'm getting a lot of energy from sharing my thinking out loud with people, being authentic and hearing people's perspectives, learning from others. And that for me has just become a really interesting part of my journey. But I get knocked if someone tries to give me feedback or they try to kind of make a point to me. Often it's women. It sometimes feels like a real dig in the way it's pointed or the language that people use. And it's amazing how much it affects me. It's like in the same way that I get a lot of energy from being around people that are really positive and supportive and encouraging. If someone actually is trying to knock me, and it does happen, you know, I put myself out there. So I'm open to that, and I know that. But it really does affect me, and it takes me a while. Like I won't post on socials that day. I won't go out and do the thing that maybe I was planning to do. I'll be internalizing, and I maybe won't sleep so well. But I don't think people see that, and that's one thing that I really struggle with. So I'm trying to do more and more of this to kind of actually. There's a lot of people in my support network and my web of support that are fantastic, and so much to learn from that I get a lot of energy around learning. But I'd love to hear what challenges you? When do you feel like you get knocked back and you have to do something differently? Do you have any examples?
I just think it's when it's your confidence at the end of the day, isn't it? And again, we're leaders for a reason, and it's placing ourselves ahead of the game. And if you do have that feedback, it's an opportunity to work through that feedback. And as much as it does knock you down, it would all be live. We say, oh no, it's all fine. But I think you just have to accept that. And like we were saying before, you don't have, success isn't being perfect. It doesn't mean just to be successful, you have to be perfect all the way through. You have to learn by all of these and take the feedback as opportunities and kind of move on to the next thing. And it's actually not dwelling so much on all of that. And I think collaborating with other women as well in your actual profession is really important. Rather than having competition, it's actually collaborating with other people. So you're out there and you're speaking to other people about the same concerns and the same challenges. It's less competition as well, and
it's funny, isn't it?
You're building again that network.
We are so much actually all on each other's side, but it's funny how some of the nitpicking doesn't feel like that, and it's couched in different ways. So I love learning from feedback. Is one thing I think. When you can tell someone's having a kind of stab at you, it feels a bit different, and I think that's where I get knocked. But I think there's a lot, as you said, to gain from learning through that and recognising we're all in this together. You don't need to be, there's so much to do, there's so much opportunity. Why can't we all move forward?
I also think as well, it's learning, from a younger age. I remember that I was it's 20 years ago. Ooh, it's 20 years ago, I'd say. But yeah, about 20 years ago. And I worked for a very successful company before. And there was a lot of change happening. And I had a new boss at the time. And he kept saying to me, if I'm going to lose my role, I'll just take your role. It's fine. I'll just run your office. And I remember thinking, oh no, this can't happen. But he said it just in passing, kept going. And in the end, it upset me so much that I left. And I left without another job to go to. And I'd been there for a long time. And it was just the constant niggling. And I think for him, he probably thought it was quite funny and that actually I wouldn't take it personally. But I had no trust in anything that he said. And in the end, I left, as I say, without another job to go to. And 2 months down the line, I got a call asking me to set up a business in Brighton, which is now who I'm still working for 17 years later. A lot better brand, a lot better business, with an exec team full of women, a fully women-run exec team. And it's the best choice that ever happened, And if he hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have moved on into pastures new and been where I am now. Wow. So actually, it's looking back at stories like that and thinking, actually, whatever happens, you're going to get through it. Yeah. And it's just a blip.
I love that. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
What really helps me if I'm going through really challenging times, I remind myself that in 1 month's time, on the 25th of April, this won't matter. And then I come to that point where I look back at that situation. You see, I told you, it doesn't matter anymore. And sometimes it does help. Just remind, because when you are in the thick of it, you think that it's just it drains you, and you think that it's gonna last forever, but it won't. Like a negative comment that they say, "Have you ever seen haters doing better than you?" Me neither. Like it's just all those mean comments come from people who see you take action and just being,
being successful is a better return, isn't it?
You said something really brilliant, Alex, at one of our breakfasts that we've had before in the past. Of it's not a bad day; it's just a difficult day. Yeah. And I've used that a few times since having that conversation with you about okay, this feels difficult. I've got tough decisions to make. I've got really difficult stakeholders to manage. I've got probably things that aren't going to go my way. But nothing bad has happened. Like my family, my friends, my work colleagues are all okay. This is a difficult day, not a bad day. And sometimes when you're going through that really tough stuff, I just feel like the world is against us. Enough already, universe. Yeah. I found your mantra
I got that
really helpful. Where did you nick it from?
Not mine, it was from Tom. It's from my husband, so I'll
it's the Alex Bailey.
It could be mine now. I'm having
yours.
That one. But yeah, I think it's interesting what you're saying about planting that date in the future as well. So I like gardening because it's completely away from everything else in my world. And I like planting seeds knowing that by the time those seeds come up, things are going to be different. And the whole world could be literally completely different by the time those flowers appear. But it's a good one to think about, isn't it? It's reframing where we are and sometimes challenging our beliefs as well. So, and their assumptions, because you can make assumptions, can't you, and biases around what you think is going to happen. But sometimes you can say to yourself, okay, what really is the evidence I have that is now going to happen as a result? And that really helps me as well, that reframing piece, as well as listening to Carleen, who's always positively encouraging in every conversation we have. So the energy I get from people who say, no, you can do that. It's all going to be absolutely fine. Sometimes I'm like, wow. Gosh, I used to get that from my parents a long time ago. Now I'm getting it more from
we believe what we think. And so that's why if anyone ever uses the words I hope, I correct them.
I know.
And it's not I hope, it will. Because your unconscious brain does tune into what the thoughts that you have. And so it's really important to be conscious of those thoughts because they change our behaviour and the impact of everything we do. So
yeah, I think it's there's so much there, isn't there? And so many examples and opportunities for us to share our experiences and our stories like Nick did, that then let's get someone to go, oh yeah, or maybe I should. And I think it comes back to that confidence piece, doesn't it? It gives me confidence when I hear you say that kind of thing, and I'm like, it feels like then there's something meant to happen, like you're meant to take action, and there's a reason that you're in that role, in that situation.
For me, confidence is not a magical feeling that you wait for. It's something that's built on action. So your career develops from you being able to take action on certain challenges. And if you don't have confidence in you, you can borrow it. You can borrow it from people who believe in you now. So your mentors, your team members, your loved ones. So they believe in you. You through them believe in yourself and you take action. No one is ever 100% ready for it.
No.
So this is how I reframe it for myself. So confidence is not a feeling. Confidence is willing to take action. And this has been really helping me recently.
And bravery. There's that bravery piece there. I think there's a lot of times people feel like they're waiting for the perfect moment, as you said, and like the perfect feeling of comfort or safety to make a step and try something new. And actually, we need to be as brave to just go, not everything's always going to be comfortable. In fact, life is actually quite uncomfortable, isn't it? I mean, it's really hard to do some of the things that we've done and do. But you do it anyway, and it's just kind of like just finding that golden thread. What's the pull? Remind myself of why am I doing this in the first place? What's the impact going to be if it goes right? And really, what's going to happen if it goes wrong? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Is that, I won't get the thing I was trying to achieve? Like, okay, that's not so bad.
I think also confidence is such a vague word, but if you even replace it with the word assertiveness, if you're assertive, is that you're going after your goals whilst respecting the boundaries of other people. Suddenly it's something more, and if you are going for this particular goal and they're not screwing anyone over, like you're still being respectful of other people's boundaries, then you're being assertive, you're not being confident, because confident can have a negative connotation as a word.
Okay, well, people can see it as arrogance.
As arrogance, but assertive.
Yeah. Can you be over
it can be, more positive spin on it.
I think it's hard though. I've been assertive and been
back
I mean, you can't please everyone, right?
No, and I think it's taken me a long time to let go of that as well, though, like the judgment of others and recognizing that actually, you can't please everybody, and that's okay. Like, not everyone's going to like everything I do or like me as a person or the way I take, my approach to things, but I think I'm fairly genuine, and hope that gives people the confidence to go, well, if she can do it, gosh, then I'm going to have a go, because the more people you see trying and doing things differently, making mistakes but being quite genuine about it, then I think it certainly gives me hope anyway, because that we don't all have to be perfect and have everything lined up at the right point to make something happen. But we've all made quite amazing things happen. If I look at the stories and the experience of the panel on this table, it's amazing. It's funny, weird calling you a panel because you're just a bunch of friends to me. But far more exciting than a boring
bigger
panel.
table than normal.
A bigger table than normal. A bigger table than normal, and no huge breakfast. But no, it's there's a lot there to unpack. So what else is there then? What have you overcome that's a helpful kind of insight to how to deal with challenges? Because I think a lot of leaders, as I said, a lot of people feel isolated at the moment. I know, sometimes you just need someone to go, should I be doing this? And someone going, yeah, definitely. And then you're okay, I'll do it then. But that doesn't often happen so much anymore in organisations. People don't always have the person next to them to kind of check in with.
And you need champions. One of the wonderful things about groups like this are people like Carleen saying, not hope, Will, and giving you advice and guidance. You need to find your people, like in any situation, whether it's at school when you're growing up, you need to find your group and your tribe. Yeah.
How did you find your people then?
It's taken a long time, and I have different groups of people for different things. You have sector-specific people that you can go to and ask really kind of nitty-gritty questions. You've got people like this group of just incredible women who you think, oh yeah, they'll know what to do, and you can channel what they're doing in a situation where you think, big girl pants time, here we go. And yeah, you just need to find your tribes and just keep trying. Keep finding groups, keep joining groups, and eventually you'll find some. You'll find lots that you go to and they don't work, and that's fine. Tap out of those and find another group. But do find a group of champions. You need those people to think, yeah, they'd be behind me. This is who I am.
So in testing that then, do you think there's real value in having groups that physically get together in person? Or would you say that you can get the same type of connection through virtual groups?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I think it's got to be in person.
In person?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's changed so much, hasn't it? The world's changed so much. There's so much hybrid working.
Yeah.
That And some people love that. And, you know, for me, I just couldn't think about sitting on my own 12 hours a day, just with no real life conversation. I think it's so important to keep that going. And if you are working hybrid, just to be able to come out and see people, you know, once a week or something, it becomes a treat, but it shouldn't be like that. You know, the world is, like we say, having these conversations that aren't planned and, you know, really taking on board others' experiences. And you need to go that moment, you know, oh yeah, I remember that, or that's exactly where I found myself last week. And you don't get that if it's, you know, set up on Teams all the time. I think Teams definitely has a place, but I think there's nothing better than actually be sat in person.
I think eating's really important as well to build on that. No, and we haven't got any food here, and we could have done, but one of the things that going out and living in Texas, which was a fantastic experience for me and my family, and obviously I still spend a lot of time out there, but one of the things I really noticed was the value placed on sharing food together as a real natural human connector, and I love that, and I've tried to kind of bring that back here a lot with all our groups that we're connected to. And that really, I don't know, just something very, very basic, isn't it? About having, you know, sharing food with somebody, being able to have that relaxing moment where your brain can kind of also think while you're eating. And
That's how we've met.
I
That's how we've met over breakfast.
I know.
You've brought that to us.
Yeah, it's important though, isn't it? I think being in person, like those mirror neurons of feeling how someone's feeling and picking up on it and being able to kind of, you know, you're nodding and I can see you, and it's like it's just feeling that sense of connection that you just can't feel virtually.
We have a pizza oven in our and many sort of hobs and cooking things in our office.
I know you love cooking.
Yeah, so it's just, I think it's a fantastic way to bring people of different cultures and age and everything together to share that experience of cooking together, and I think it's hugely important.
Yeah, in the office. I know that the food, there's a lot of importance on food here at Runway East. Katerina and I both have an office here, and I know there's fantastic locations across, but we have breakfasts and we have
lunches,
Pop Tarts today,
parties,
and parties and you know, drinks, and it really does bring people together. And I've seen it in different shared offices when I've visited in London, like the big, I've talked about it on LinkedIn, the cake line where everyone's queuing up for cake and they're all talking to each other. It's like, it's absolutely brilliant to see that. And it's only since I missed it by not having it in the lockdowns that I now really see and value that connection and that, you know, just being able to be with people that I hadn't noticed before. It was almost like it was just so subconsciously there all the time that sometimes you need something to bring it to the forefront of your attention, the actual simplicity of what's happening when you're connecting with people on a human level. That really, you're all nodding. I don't know where I'm going with that one, but yeah, it just I find it's really important.
I've won £1 million deals off the back of it, actually.
Have you?
Yes, literally turning up with a basket full of freshly baked cakes, and the first thing the client says, well, the incumbent brought a packet of biscuits, you've won now, before we even said anything.
Nice.
So, that wasn't my intention, but I'm from Ireland, and they have this amazing shop called Evocare where this is like the best made homemade cakes and scones, and it was just my excuse to go and buy this beautiful basket with all these cakes to share. But I think, imagine whose face wouldn't light up if you turned up with something either that you'd made or something that you'd sort of got from a beautiful baking shop or a patisserie or whatever. It's just, what's not to love about that?
Well, it's attending to human needs, isn't it? It's recognising that there is a commonality in all of us. I think it's so easy to look at the difference all the time. Like finding your tribe is really important. Being able to recognise who you have that commonality with. I love that question. Who are my people? I'm going to be thinking. I've got lots of people.
You should do, right? We compare ourselves to so many people, sometimes badly. I certainly do, you know, think, oh God, that person's doing that and that person's got that. But actually it's finding those people and finding a really diverse group of people. You know, I love the fact that this group of people were from all different sectors and different places in our lives. And that really helps when you're in something that feels difficult to have that many perspectives in a safe environment to share. It's brilliant. It's invaluable.
And bring challenges,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Were you going to? I thought you were going to jump in.
No, I just totally agree. I think it's really probably the most important thing, isn't it? Is the people that you surround yourself with, to give you that confidence, to give you that support. And I think it's just a great.
We all have our different strengths, so it's great to be able to, somebody else might have been through something that you haven't yet, and whether it's a product launch or whatever it is, and just being able to tap in to that. I just literally, as I came here today, had a text from another business owner who I'm in a group with, and he said, how do you, I'll have to process the answer to the question, but he said, how do you deal with difficult client situations? Do you have someone dedicated to customer experience? And in my business, we are actually just about to appoint an account manager, and I'm thinking, is that the answer that he's looking for? I don't really know, and I love anything to do with HR, so I frequently get calls and messages about, I've got this situation, what would you do? And I'm thinking, I've never seen that one, but this is what I would do. But it's just nice to have a sounding board, isn't it, from other people to just explore your thinking and your ideas, because sometimes it isn't always your husband or wife at home who might have the answers. But it's nice to have somebody else in a safe environment.
Without judgment,
Yeah,
definitely.
without judgment. That's the key though, isn't it? So many times I've called you, Carleen, and we're going through the same thing at the same time, and I'm like, that's amazing. It's almost like I'm getting to that point now where I default, like, this is going on. Maybe I should call Carleen.
Yeah. Well, I think there needs to be an MBA, not based on running a business, but on, if you're this size, you probably have these growing pains.
Yes.
And if you're at this size, you've probably got these growing pains. Because it's absolutely true, you're right.
Yeah.
We always seem to be the same size at the same time and have the same challenges. It's like, and we're running different businesses, so there would be a lot of value in that MBA, I suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you realise that it's not all you. So that takes the person out of it. It's almost like actually there are some global and kind of macro challenges here that everyone's facing that actually impact people in very similar ways. But it's quite hard to kind of stand back and go, oh gosh. I know I spoke to someone recently who was looking at some kind of survey results, and they were saying, like, you know, there was a kind of in their top 3, there was a message coming back from their people that their people were feeling very angry, and they were really worried about what they'd been doing with the organisational strategy and vision. And I was saying, well, maybe it's not about the strategy and vision. Maybe people are just angry, and it's something, you know, about the state of where the world is right now. And it was like, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, actually. That's really important. It might not be an organisational thing. There might be something that's actually affecting us in society more globally, that's actually causing really common reactions to organisational challenges on a day-to-day basis that you can't see if you're stuck in it, can you?
Well, it's like getting back to the office, getting back in the office, should I say? Sort of, yeah, just that's a global thing, isn't it? A global challenge that many organisations have struggled with, and so it's not an individual, it's not just your team that might be finding it difficult to come back and commit to coming back into the office. It's not about the company. I think it's a global challenge that many organisations are facing.
And we're not seeing enough data yet, are we? I mean, essentially a lot of people started back returning to the office in January, more so than ever before, from what I could tell, with large organisations making that move. You'd think kind of 3 months in we'd start to see some data on impacts of that. I haven't seen much come through. Have you seen them? No.
Well, I was just talking with my HR manager today, and she said that nobody has ever, with new people coming into the office, we're saying that you need to be in the office, and no one's batting an eyelid. So it's almost like there's a legacy of those employees that worked with you during the pandemic might be enjoying the privileges of flexibility of hybrid working, but actually the reality of the lost opportunity for creativity and learning and meeting, having friendship groups and things like that, it's huge. So I think there's a realisation that there's a lot to be gained from working in more close proximity to your colleagues.
That's really nice to hear. That's really nice to hear, because I think the expectation was that lots of people didn't want to come back, wasn't it? But again, it's about the environment that you make, isn't it? And you know, sometimes when people come in for interviews and you can see that they've worked from home and they don't have any of those
social skills.
There's just nothing there, just from shaking their hands, and you're like, goodness me, this is just like really basic, you know, from you know how we started and our interviews, and you look back and it's really nice to hear that you're seeing that. That's really encouraging.
Yeah, I think lots of people are, but well, you know, there's always different polarised views on it, and I'm not saying one size fits all at all. We've got a really diverse kind of difference in our workforce, but it is It's an interesting one that we're sitting here 3 months into 25 and there isn't many stats out there kind of showing, because you'd expect to see someone doing some big research on it. So I wonder if anyone's got any. Perhaps anyone watching might want to share their research on what their experience. I don't want to start a big debate on working from home or the office, but yeah, I think it's another one of those topics that comes to the forefront when you start thinking about challenges for leaders and having to represent and make decisions for the organisation and build trust in an organisation where you're not always making the decisions. Sometimes you have to face those decisions and share your response to those decisions, even if you didn't make them or wouldn't have made them. And I think that's super hard for leaders with the uncertainty and the difficulties. You know, it's like there's quite a lot going on at the moment for leaders in organisations.
That's why your values are so important. I think that you can, if you have a set of values that you really believe in, I think it really helps with everyone making better decisions in your business, and then it's easier to live by those decisions. We've recently relaunched our values and refreshed them, you could say, and the reason for that is because we were going through growth and recruiting a lot, and I think it was so important to make sure that the people that we brought in were aligned with the core of who we want to be, because I think as you grow, you could accidentally morph into something that you're not, that you don't want to be. So I think
and what do you stand for?
And what you stand for, and I think it's been really, really sort of empowering for our team, but also especially for the person who's bringing in the people, because it is really important that we're bringing in the right people for our business.
And the right mindsets as well. I've been hearing a lot around the way of mindsets. And we had John Gomes came and joined me in a live in February and was talking about his work around leadership mindsets. And I thought that was really nice. It's a nice connector, whereas previously there are some kind of organisational behaviours that feel a bit like you're being fitted into a box and you have to behave a certain way to be part of that culture and organisation. But if you've got values and mindsets, that kind of collective mindsets that people can take, like adaptability, for example, if we're all focusing on adaptability or how we can learn around here rather than this is how we do things around here, actually it helps us move in that direction of anchoring us together. So there is a collective sense of something that we create as a whole that's not about individuals. That feels really, really important, particularly for growth.
Yeah, mindset is so a key important part of any company's values. It's just taking them at a superficial level where they're stuck on a wall into sort of what would be the behaviours or the beliefs and the sort of the mindset of somebody who held those values. And just it's the challenges, although ChatGPT I will say has been very helpful, is to try and uncover the mindset. So asking a simple question such as, tell me about your last boss, or what sort of people do you like? It's almost like digging deeper into the person to what is their beliefs and mindset. How can they pick themselves up after a challenge? And mindsets is something that is very hard as an employer. Whilst you might be able to change it, I would hope, with what they bring in to the business, a lot of it, the strength of their persona is that mindset, that resilience, where their beliefs, and that will carry them and touch on many of their colleagues as well. So it is so important to be digging into that level as well. Are they all about themselves, or are they thinking about a wider sort of impact that they might have on society or their colleagues, and certainly definitely not for every younger generational person, but there's many of the younger generations, they haven't had that maturity to realise that actually the world is more than just them in their existence. They need to think about, sorry, smiling, to rise above themselves and think about others, and that sometimes they might get lucky, we might get lucky, and they might have that naturally for sure, but it's almost like a survival instinct that makes them sort of fight for their own domain and what they believe or whatever it is. What's your experience?
Yeah, I was just thinking that there is a conversation that the younger generation, so Gen Z, they're more like individualists rather than communists. And it is an interesting sort of challenge to present to your younger team, saying like, this is what your role is, but this is how you influence us all, like us as a team, us as a business, and what is your contribution. and sort of widen their mindset rather than focusing, oh, I'm just clocking in 9 to 5, I'm doing my job, that's it. But like if you are not actually doing things like the way that we would like you to do them, how it influences other people and how other people will need to take on the slack and then do more work. And I think loads of people have this conversation that it's a different mindset that people have to work. Like it used to be that people used to leave to work. Now people used to work to leave, right? Yeah. And now they're like leaving to work. And how do you like navigate that challenge?
Yeah. It's super hard. I think things are just dramatically different than they have been. I think we've got people entering the workforce that have never been in a workforce pre-pandemic, and some of those people are now entering into first line management roles and supervisory roles for the first time, having never had a role model of a manager in that environment before. So they're learning the environment as well as the role and how to step up, sometimes away from peers. That kind of rising star kind of piece can be quite difficult and competitive. And I think it's really challenging for frontline leaders.
And it's always interesting to see how employee behavior changes. If they had the employers before, narcissistic leaders, really mean people that they had to work for, and then suddenly they come to the company with a good culture that really puts people first, and it's just amazing how they flourished. I had employees who came from really like dramatic backgrounds, really narcissistic leaders doing this the traditional way. I own you, you do what I say. And there's like, I don't care what you feel and think. And then bringing them to our culture where like we all like together, you know, like be open, be authentic, and just you see how much more you can get out of people. But you sort of therapize them after someone screwed them over.
Broke them.
Yeah, someone broke them, and then it's like a broken puppy, and then you...
It's good to find your place where you can thrive, for
Yeah.
sure. So I think, when you find that place where you feel really comfortable to be yourself and give your best, you're in a great place. And I'm looking at your watch, and it's time. So I need to kind of close up and summarise now. And I'm going to come around to each person and say kind of what's your key takeaway from today, because I know people love to hear that. But I did just want to say to everybody, please do send in your comments and questions. We've got lots of opportunity to do that and to answer those afterwards. We haven't been able to be fully interactive today as we normally would have, because this is a dynamic live roundtable, completely unedited, as you'll see. There's plenty of things that I probably should have said differently, but I really welcome your thoughts and opinions, and I know everyone does here too, and we'll all be happy to jump on and answer some questions if you want to pop those into the chat. And I'd love to hear kind of closing thoughts. We've gone on so many different routes today, and that's I thank you so much. I'm really grateful, because actually that's exactly what I wanted to create, was just a really honest conversation, because we have these all the time. And sometimes like I just sit there and I'm like, oh, why didn't I capture that? I didn't write it down. We could have videoed it. That's brilliant. Really helpful thinking for business leaders. And actually, sometimes it's the simple things, and you need to hear it from someone else to know that someone else is actually thinking the same thing, and it gives you confidence to go do something differently. So I really hope that that's supported anyone who's had similar ideas about challenges, coping with barriers in the workplace, but also, you know, doing things that make a difference and have an impact for innovation, and focusing on growth and opportunity rather than feeling kind of trodden down by potentially kind of change exhaustion. But so I'll come around to everybody differently. So who wants to go first? Who's summarising? What's key takeaway? Carly.
So I think there's nothing like being connected.
Yeah.
With people, whether they're a tribe or not, but just connectedness is a really critical skill for our creativities, for our survival, for our sanity. So if people don't have a group of fellow business owners, business leaders that they frequently meet, like on a monthly basis, you need to go and find that group, because they will exist, or find one or more.
Or make one.
Or make one, even better. Make one, absolutely, make one, and invite them with food. So yeah, that would be my key takeaway.
Great, love it, thank you. Donna, shall I come to you? Go around.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would echo, it's for me certainly finding the right people that you can ask for help, people that you can share with, people that you can kind of bounce ideas off of, people that you can grab great models and ideas and things that haven't worked. It's absolutely, the world is changing, and it does feel like a bit of a roller coaster at the moment, no matter where you are in it. And people on that roller coaster with you is really helpful, whether it's the team that you trust and that trust you, or whether it's your kind of ladies at lunch or brunch or breakfast. It's really important.
Yeah, thank you.
I would say that if you don't feel confident Don't worry, you can borrow confidence
love
from
that.
your peers.
Yeah.
You can borrow confidence from your mentors, from your team members. You can lean on them. You can lean on people who believe in you, and you can take action. Taking action is always better and more valuable than just being hesitant and being stagnant.
Move forward.
Move forward, take action, and have supportive networks around you who uplift you.
Nice. I love that. Brilliant. What do you reckon?
What they all said. I think again, but it is just it's the people you know who are going to bring you up. And like you say, if you haven't got the confidence, it's the people who are going to encourage you and get you to where you need to be. So it's the importance again of communication, clear communication, and having those open conversations and not being scared. We all need to talk to people.
Yeah, and recognising that we can be scared and still do it,
Yes.
even if
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are scared. I feel that sometimes too. And for me, it's this island of sanity, this kind of group of people that I feel like I can just go, actually, and you said it just then, you can ask for people for help. Asking for help is really hard to do, now more than ever. And actually, I do feel like I can, and I love talking to you, ladies. Thank you so much. And all the people that are missing from our lovely group of Island of Sanity as well today, we miss you. But I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been a real honour to sit and have a chat with you, and thank you for being brave and going live on a roundtable with me without a script, without any previous questions. Yeah, cheers, ladies. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Cheers, Donna, Holly.
Cheers. Cheers, Vicky.
And cheers to the fantastic Inspo Hub team who have helped us with this amazing broadcast, and to Runway East as well, supporting us too. So wouldn't have done it without that amazing team support. Thank you everyone for joining us. Leave your questions and comments. We'd love to connect with you. Thank you so much.